everybody, it's been another month, and with another month comes a whole nother group of questions. And this month is particularly special because it's Mental Health Awareness Month, so I hope that you enjoy all of these answers and find them really helpful. And let's jump into the next four. And the first question is, hey Katie, there's something weighing heavy on my heart. My husband and I have been together for 19 years, married for the last 14. We have 4 children, 2 girls ages 12 and 10, and 2 boys ages 6 and 3. For the last 4 years, we've been just friends. We only coexist to raise the children. We show absolutely no affection. I don't think we've given each other a hug even in over 2 years. In your professional opinion, do you think it's healthy to live this way for the kids' sake? Or should choices be made based on our own happiness? I've confided in a few coworkers to share what my home life is like, and they say that my kids are going to think that this is how marriage is supposed to be. Are we doing the right thing, or should we try a new course of action? Do you have any thoughts to share, Katie? What a great question. And there's a lot more that I don't even think I've touched on in videos in the past about marriage and relationships. And overall, when it comes to staying together for the children, as a professional, we find that that's not healthy at all. And obviously the situation with you and your husband doesn't sound like it's a volatile one, but sometimes it is for children. And then they think that relationships are supposed to be violent, or they grow up in an abusive environment just because their parents struggled to divorce. And we find that children whose parents communicate clearly about what's going on and get divorced and talk with them and split time between their parents actually have healthier and happier lives. And so overall, I would tell you that you maybe should consider a different course of action, because your children are going to think that marriages and relationships aren't affectionate ones. And we know, like you and I know, that that's just not the truth, right? And so I would encourage you to talk to your husband, decide what's best for you and your family, and know that you don't have to stay together for the kids, because it actually isn't benefiting them. And also, it's really not benefiting you or your husband either. You both deserve to be in loving, happy relationships. And just because you've been with this person for 19 years doesn't mean that you have to be with him for the next 19. So maybe do some, soul searching of your own, get into therapy. I would encourage both of you to be in therapy. And again, talk openly and honestly with your children, because they understand and see and notice more than we ever think they do. Question number 2. Hey Katie, I've learned lately that my therapist's office is probably the only safe space that I have right now. Places like work, going out with friends, and even being home can be triggering from time to time. It's nice to have a place where I feel safe every time I'm there. However, my therapist is only once a week for 45 minutes, and I don't know how to make my whole life safe, so I thought that I could try to make my room in my house completely safe, but I don't really know how. My question is, how do you make a place like a room safe, especially knowing that I can't stay there forever and I'll have to go to places that might be triggering? This is a great question. I know that many people struggle making places safe. And the truth about it is that we need to figure out what safety is for us. If it's about triggers and us potentially being triggered out of nowhere, we aren't going to be able to create anything that's going to be safe and free from triggers unless we increase our self-care and overall are just working to better ourselves, which again would make all areas more safe because we're overall having less triggers and less episodes than we used to have. But we can do things to make certain places feel like our one safe space. For instance, I had this patient years ago, probably like 5 or 6 years ago now, but she struggled so hard with like night terrors and flashbacks, but my office was the one place that she never felt triggered and never had situations like flashbacks or any of the like dissociation that pretty much wrecked everywhere else she was at. And I used to have this like candle in my office that I would light, and it had a certain smell to it. And so she got the candle for her house and put it in her bedroom. And she also liked some of the colors in the office and tried to integrate that into her room. And so there are ways that using our 5 senses, we can turn another place into a very similar representation of the one safe space. And so that's what I would encourage you to do. I'd encourage you to think about what it is in your therapist's office that you notice a lot. Maybe she'll give you a transitional object, which is like something, I'm looking around to see if I have anything small, but it'd be like a little something that I give you that you bring back every week, but you take it with you so that you know that that safe space exists and you can bring it wherever you go. And a lot of therapists will do that. It could be like a little trinket like on their shelf or something. So that's another thing, but noticing the colors and the scents and the way it makes you feel, and try to incorporate that into your bedroom, because that's honestly the best way that we can try to, create another safe space. And question number 3 is, Katie, how can I find the nurturing and self-love after not getting that from either of my parents growing up? For the longest time, I believed that I'm completely unlovable and a terrible person. Otherwise, why wouldn't they love me and support me growing up? I don't want this need to come from outside of me, but at the same time, the fact that no one else has ever shown me this care makes me feel like those negative beliefs might be true. This is something that so many of us struggle with, and I will be doing some more videos about like healing our inner child, like doing inner child work, because what you're describing is really that inner child work. And I would encourage you to rewatch my video about healing from emotional neglect. I'll link it in the description, but there's a lot of things that we need to do to heal, and unfortunately, it's not like a quick fix. The best ways that we can start to do that inner child work is to communicate with that child. And I know that sounds really weird because we can't fly through time and talk to ourselves, but we need to write letters back and forth from our younger child to our adult self. I say that because that child didn't feel any love and didn't feel cared for. And now is the time when we can actually listen to that child. It has the courage and the voice to speak up. And then we can heal it and we can talk to it in a loving and supportive way. And I know this is also going to sound strange, but I've had a lot of clients who will do childlike things as an adult because it's something that they never got to do as a child, like building a blanket fort and reading books and having pajama parties and things like that that maybe their parents never allowed them to do because they just weren't around and they never showed them support and they wouldn't let them mess up the house. Whatever it could be, there are things that you can do. It's another way to heal that child. And I would encourage you to consider the messages that you hoped you'd received from your parents. And when you're talking back to that younger part of you, I want you to use those words. I want you to use the phrases that you just wanted so badly, because that's really the beginning of that inner child work. And know that this comes, like all of this work comes along with a lot of tears. It can make us revert back to being a child self. We might lash out at people around us. We might be super sensitive. So just make sure that you're aware of that and don't put yourself in any extremely vulnerable or triggering situations for a while you conversate with your younger self and work to heal. And the fourth and final question for this video, but like I said, there are tons more questions, so make sure you don't miss out on those videos. But this question is, Katie, I had an eating disorder assessment at the start of April. 2 things the nurse said that still bother me are, number 1, you don't look like you have an eating disorder, and number 2, there's nothing wrong, you're making the choice not to eat. What a jerk. My problem is now that whenever the eating disorder voice says something, I hear her voice as well, saying both of these things. How can I block out her voice? This eating disorder is hard enough without having a second voice. First of all, I just want to apologize because that professional is a complete piece of garbage and shouldn't be interacting with people going to do eating disorder assessments. Doesn't she know that eating disorders look all sorts of different ways? Ugh, the frustration. Ugh. But okay. The real question, let's get to the answer because I could just go on that tangent for a long time. But the best way to shut that up and get it out of your head is to talk back to it. The same way that we do the eating disorder. But this person's a garbage human. So here's some things to get you started. Oh, but she's terrible at her job. She doesn't even understand eating disorders. Doesn't she know the binge eating disorder is there? Bulimia is there? EDNOS or OSFED? Those are all different eating disorders. Anorexia is not the only eating disorder, you stupid idiot. Whatever you have to say, shout back. Yell it down. Get it out of your head because it's garbage. It's lies. It's no better than your eating disorder voice. It's honestly in the same realm. And so I'd encourage you to spend time talking back to it, knowing that you're right and she is wrong. Trust me. I'll say it again. You are right and she is wrong. We're going to have to fight that voice and know that it's just lies. It doesn't mean anything and it doesn't matter. You know you're suffering. That's why you went to get assessed and you're trying to get treatment. You know how hard it is. Trust in yourself. Trust in your symptoms because you know what it's like, and she's just shitty at her job, and I'm sorry. I hope you found these answers helpful. Thank you so much for your support each and every month. You make my channel possible. I can't say thank you enough, but there are so many more questions, so make sure you don't miss out on those videos, and I'll see you over there. Bye.